Child, the way my nervous system was in flip flops when Ashley was thirsting over Donnell Jones' little brother. Girl, act like you've been around an attractive man before. Y'all, let's get into episode 3 of Ready to Love, Make a Move. Hey y'all, support this channel by smashing that like button. Your likes not only make my day, but they also tell YouTube that you also enjoy this content. Also, don't forget to hit the notification button. That way you can be alerted as soon as I drop a new episode. Thanks. Welcome, beautiful people, and welcome back, Question Crew. I just want to give a small shout out to my Question Crew. I appreciate and love y'all so much. Thank you for all the well wishes and the comments and the community post and my email. Thank you so much, y'all, for just showing me love as I'm getting over this cold. Child, it's been a one. Your girl been down bad. But me and NyQuil got it together and we back like we never left. So let's get into this episode 3 of Ready to Make a Move. Y'all, why are we still on this Zadia and Sharice fight? So we're back on episode 3. Zadia and Sharice is still arguing. Sharice is turning raw chicken pink honey in the kitchen and going off Zadia about treating her like the help. It's giving Viola Davis vibes. And really what's going on is Zadia is trying to get down to why did Sharice feel the need to communicate to Tamika and throw her under the bus in front of everybody about the fact that Zadia wanted company. Child, we have been over this fight. But Zadia is basically saying that because of this, she does not trust Sharice. And she feels like Sharice is not somebody that other women can trust because the need to throw her under the bus in front of everybody to basically snitch about the fact that Zadia wanted to have male company and that Zadia snuck out is a problem. Sharice is letting her know, girl, I don't care nothing about that. At the end of the day, you still disrupted my slumber. And we're back in this argument again. Now, I know they cut us off from last week talking about it because the episode was cutting off, but essentially we are over this as well. We could care less, but they keep going back and forth. Ashley is cooking mind of her business saying she gonna feed the angry birds honey because she is over this conversation. And again, Renisha is like, girl, all this energy y'all could be floating into meeting a man and taking all this to meet a man. You're arguing with this girl about whether or not she should have said something about you sneaking out, you doing the shame and walk, coming back in, waking her up out of her sleep. And we need Sharice needs all her sleep, honey, because the derma Phyllis can only do but so much. But it's just killing me that we are having this conversation. Just be about the fact that y'all don't care for each other so we can kill this WWE fight that's going on and it's rented home. Honey, it's the next morning and we are thinking, okay, this whole dynamic is over with her and Sharice, but Zadia is still bringing it up in the kitchen. She's cooking breakfast for her and Renisha, and they're having this conversation about how the solidarity in the house has now been broken because of the dynamic with Sharice and her snitching. And Renisha actually agrees that she feels like it did change and shift some of the energy. But Zadia was also a part of that, so I don't understand how Renisha's not seeing that. But anyway, Venetia still is on some, hey, y'all both need to take this energy and channel it to find a man, honey, because that is why we are here. While we're on a note of why we are here, are we not also here to just basically I don't know. Could they have gotten a manservant or something since the budget is a little bit different now that they don't have all those people to house? I just feel like could we have gotten somebody to cook some meals for us to bring stuff? I'll be damned if I'm on vacation looking for somebody and we cooking our own meals every single night. I don't know. I don't like the girls trip energy. Anyway, they're having a conversation and they move further away from the Sharice drama and on to the fact that they're going to be going on some blind dates. Tamika, the matchmaker, has set them up with individuals that they have never met before, even though they currently have their keeper guide to see if everything is solid with that current connection or could somebody sort of sway them a different avenue. And she wants to keep giving them options before they make a final decision. And Zadia says she's very nervous and she's not sure how she feels about the first date, the blind date, because she really has been enjoying her time with Cameron, the matted hair dude that she is really, really feeling. And Renisha says she actually appreciates it because she doesn't want to lock in too early. You can just really tell that whole situation with Joelle and locking in early and how they ended up really affected Renisha because she has made it staunch, honey. She has stamped it across her chest. She's wearing it on a gold chain around her neck that she will not lock in too early because every time that she sort of, bets the house on this person, she ends up craps. So she's like, look, I have to make sure all my options stay open and that I'm looking at every possible option before I make a decision on any guy. When we're talking about possible options, I really want to understand what is going on with Zadia and the wig options. It's killing me. I don't even know how you wear a wavy with a part and then also with a headband at the top. Was she I don't know, was she laying down the baby hairs that morning? I didn't know what was going on. Zadia and these constant wig changes is throwing me off. I'm not sure who we're seeing on a regular basis. Y'all tell me how y'all feel in the comments. I love a good mix up in the change and the look, but some of these are giving me questionable ideas about whether or not she's had a broken relationship with her hairdresser. Moving on. So now we get down to the get down, and we seeing these blind dates occur. And first up, we see a random man in a pink shirt walking down the street, honey, headed to the corner of a restaurant, and we are introduced to Kirsten. He is 38. He is an ex-NFL player and philanthropist. Why we always got some ex-NFL players in this situation? I've noticed that this season, I believe there was a season of Atlanta with that man that kept walking around that party with the Super Bowl ring on. Every couple of months we keep getting some ex-athlete. Is this what they're looking for after retirement? I don't know what's going on. But anyway, Kirsten is the ex-NFL player, and he said that he is looking forward. This is his first blind date, and he doesn't know, what the situation holds, but he trusts Tamika and he trusts her instincts. And so he's open to what she has to bring him. And I'm just like, okay, so maybe we're not meeting everybody off a Black Planet. Maybe in fact, everybody's not come from plenty of fish. And Tamika is in fact a real matchmaker, y'all. So Kirsten sits down, and the next thing you know, we see Ashley strolling up the block. And honey, if it's one thing Ashley gonna do, she gonna let us know that she bought everything on the Pretty Little Things sale page that week. Cause our sis is walking up in a cute little zippy jumpsuit and some glasses. And I ain't really mad at it. Now, Ashley sits down and immediately, y'all, starts thirsting over this man. Yes, he's attractive. Yes, he has a great smile. But when I tell you Ashley did the absolute most, girl, act like you've been somewhere before. Act like you've seen something before. It really breaks my heart when I see women do the most. There is nothing wrong with complimenting an attractive man. There's nothing wrong with letting a man know that he is appealing to your eye. But the way in which she kept going at the compliment over compliment over compliment, it was too much. And it kind of is what Kirsten ended up doing on his date with Zadia. And while I do think that it's not a bad thing, again, to compliment somebody, don't just overdo it. It feeds the ego way too much. Calm down and get to know this man. So I was very disappointed with Ashley. Sometimes her bubbly energy reads doing the most. And I feel like if you're looking for a different way to think for things to be, you have to be a little different this time around. I get that she's keeping her options open and her eyes open this time around because of what she went through with Alex. But Ashley, I'm gonna need you to pull it and rein it in, girl. But Ashley continues all the compliments, and then they start having a conversation. Now, I will say this: I absolutely loved their conversation. It was very free flowing. It was very open. You can tell right away Ashley has this very bubbly personality, and he's actually following her point for point. Everything about their vibe is really good. Now, even though Ashley is continuing to be starstruck by a nobody, honey, we are going back and back to date. So what we realized early on is that they have hooked Ashley up to go out with the same guy they've hooked Zadia to go out with, which is Kirsten who we just met. Now, I'm gonna go over Ashley date and then Zadia date first because I ain't going back and forth, back and forth. So Ashley and him have this great conversation, like I said earlier. They talk about how cool and easy everything is. They even start talking about their favorite foods and favorite colors, honey, where the favorite place to travel is. And he asked Ashley, like, what's your favorite meal? And she says Chick-fil-A. He says, all right, Chick-fil-A, give me your order. So she tells him, it's the 12 nuggets, sriracha sauce. And he's like, oh, no, you need two sriracha sauces, whatever, because, you got somebody else to eat now. She said, no, I don't share my food. I hear that. I don't play around with that. I will order you another something. Don't come and play with my food. So she's like, look, I don't share my food, but I'll give you a little bit of a bite. And it just tells you like how cute their back and forth was. They start having a conversation about a bunch of different things. It's really engaging. And it makes you really appreciate the effortlessness when you're just being yourself that can go on a first date. And it also feels like maybe Sharice's man should get some pointers on how to actually talk to another human being and be of interest to someone because her and Eric Adams have been horrible, honey. So he asked Ashley what her favorite drink is. She doesn't agree with that, but then he asked her favorite movie. Well, she asked him his favorite movie, and he says Life. And Ashley's like, oh my God. It was just, she felt like the stars were aligned, honey. And I couldn't agree more, to be honest. On their first date, and this would be their first meetup, it definitely gave you homegirl, homeboy vibes. But Honestly, that's how most people start out, especially in hopefully a good relationship. You start out having that vibe with somebody where it's just like, this is easy, this is free flowing. We having a good conversation before you get down to the get down. He does ask Ashley about her family dynamic, and she said that she has 6 little brothers and 1 older sister. So now I kind of see why Ashley is very like upbeat, like she has a lot of younger siblings. And she says that, and he says that he is the youngest of 5 kids. They both saying like, having a large family is like a very unique situation because it's like really never a dull moment. He then asked Ashley about parenting and what does she feel about having children. Neither one of them have children. And she mentions that, she would love to have kids, but it is a little scary to her, just the actual process of having children, not so much about the idea of being a mom, but she says it's just a huge undertaking, like a pregnancy. She's worried about how it would change her body. And many women are, a lot of women are waiting to have kids later on in life. Honey, they want to get them 20s out the way, get them early 30s out the way before I got to give over my body and my life to this child. So I completely understand where she was coming from. And she's just saying, like, look, I'm a very fit person. I want to make sure that I can snap back. And that is something that a lot of women go through, struggling to snap back. I do think that snapback culture is destructive in some ways, but I also understand, you know, being a very fit person and wanting to stay in shape and what that feels like, especially if you've ever struggled with your weight. I know I have. And I feel like, you continue to, you want to make sure that like you're able to get yourself back into a healthy space, because when you're having kids later in life, the other part of that is that you have to be active for those children. They're still going to want to run around and do all these different things. So you want to make sure that you're able to keep up with your kids in a healthy capacity. And I understand what she meant by snapping back, even though there are women that, are able to have kids and it doesn't like they had children, but normally that's when you're very, very young or you've already been very fit. The older you are, which Ashley is in her 30s, closer to her late 30s, if you're not a person who's very active, it can be hard to get back in shape. So I understand where she's coming from. And, he asked her, does she think she'll be a good mom? She says, yes, she's a baby whisperer. She loves kids. And again, the segues in this conversation, the ease, the flow, it was just going. And we're really digging the vibe that he has with her. I mean, the only thing that was uncomfortable was when she started wiping sweat off that man's head like he was James Brown. Honey, I was like, put that napkin down. What is wrong with you? But I really feel like Ashley's such a beautiful vibe, and I hope that she is one of my faves on the show right now. And I hope that she really does find her person. But I need her to also, in finding her person, find just a little bit more self-esteem about the fact that, honey, you are really the catch and the prize. Let this man come to you with the compliments and stuff. There's nothing wrong with you giving that back. But I feel like that's kind of what she did with Alex, and it didn't end up working out. She was given too much. So now we got Zadia and Kirsten, and they're a whole nother dynamic. So, Kirsten then changed into a blue shirt now, honey. When I tell you, I feel like that man just went to the cleaners, put 2 shirts in the back of his car, and when they said cut, he went and put the other shirt on because he has on the exact same outfit but a blue color shirt. So he's now meeting up with Zadia, and he gets into the restaurant. Zadia comes walking in. She looks very beautiful. He is struck down to silence. Do you understand me? That man is looking, staring at her like nothing. Zadia does have a initial presence of like a siren, I consider. Like she just stops it. She's a beautiful girl. She looks great. And he is just completely speechless. He's out of breath. He's like, oh my gosh. So she's like, okay, hi, my name is Zadia. And he says hello. And she says, like, they're sitting down talking. And she's like, okay, do you want to speak? And he's like, I'm just taking it all in. And I said, okay, you better say that. So he still continues to be speechless at some point. And then Zadia is like, look, I get it. You find me attractive, but at some point you need to like say something, speak words. And I thought it was very, very cute at first, but then when they kind of the camera went back towards him, I noticed that he kind of licked his lips a little bit. And while that is something that's like, okay, this man sees you as desirable, it was giving off more sexual energy attraction than completely like visually blinded by your beauty. And that felt a little cringy after a while. And I think Zadia picked up on that because she also felt the same way. He kept telling her how beautiful she was. And again, it was giving the same thirst vibes given as she was given to that man. And it's like, okay, I get that initial attraction. Now let's get into some conversation so I can see who you really are. And I appreciate Zadia for putting a pump on that, because it's nothing wrong with somebody, like I said, telling you look beautiful, telling you that they're attracted to you, letting you know that you're something that they want. But we need to find out more. So this give me, a little bit more interest and not just that. So they start to have conversation. They're having an initial conversation. He asks her where she's from. She says, I'm from DC. They're talking, and then the lady comes up with the food, and she puts down this like little tower of shrimp in front of them. And so he grabs Zadia's hand and he goes, okay, do you want to lead us in prayer? She said, oh, no, you can do that. And but then he goes, all right, well, I'm gonna lead us in a silent prayer. So you say whatever you need to say. And it's like, what? You just asked this woman because she leads y'all in prayer. She decided I'm not gonna be the one to say it, but then you don't want to pray out publicly. She's like, what is going on with that? That was just so weird to me. Like, you just asked me to pray publicly. Don't be a weirdo this quick in the game. And I feel like this is where their conversation and their dynamic kind of went from good to bad real fast. So they start having conversations about family and talking, similar to what the questions that he was asking Ashley, but the vibe is definitely different. This is something about Zadia that gives dry energy. And he asks Zadia about, family and children. And she says, he says that, he definitely wants kids. He doesn't have any kids that he knows of. And I understood what he was saying in that because he said he doesn't have kids, but he doesn't, not that he knows of, because he used to play in the NFL. So you got to think about the fact that he was probably out there hoeing and now, he's back to being out of the NFL, but the fact that he was in it, sometimes you're in a different city, things happen. I don't know. You get a pregnancy test a couple months later. So Zadia says, yeah, she doesn't have any kids either, and she's not even sure that she wants to go down that path, but she will gift a man a child. Oh, Zadia. So this again is the hint at just tell him that you're not sure about children or you should not sure that you want kids, but the idea that you need to be gifting somebody, and yes, a child is a gift, but Sadia, you need to make up your mind as to whether or not you do want children or don't want children, or just say, look, I'm open to having kids with the right person. But stop with this. I don't want to have kids, so I might have kids, or I might just have kids for you. Because the worst parents in the world are the ones that did not want children. They're absolutely horrible to their kids, and they will ultimately be horrible to their spouse. So I just don't even understand that situation with her. So then they start having a discussion about just like the dating process in general, and it just gets dry and dry and dry. And to me, that's all I really get from Zadia. I noticed the same thing when she was on her season where the dates would start off well, but she would just get boring very quickly. Like it's a lot of outside dressing, but there's not a lot of depth. But then she tries to put it back on the other person. And I really just honestly think that she was just really into Cameron. And so putting her on this date was a waste of Tamika's time, which is weird because she said something opposite after the date was over. But this man was pulling teeth and he was not interested anymore. So now we're on a surprise date number 2. And surprise date number 2 is with Venetia and Sharice, honey. And so Tamika is meeting these random men and she's like, look, let's just try something different. We want to see if you're going to keep your keeper or if you're going to go with this blind date situation. And if it's one thing Venetia gonna do with the outfit, honey, she gonna let us know that she could have been in the apple bottoms jean commercial years ago. Because all of the outfits are very much given. I could have been a backup dancer for Nelly. Venetia definitely is a club girl. And she ain't never letting that go. So here she comes traipsing up the street to meet Walter. Walter is a 46-year-old musician from Louisiana. And Walter is a vastly different look from Kirsten, who we just met. He's definitely drastically different. He's a nice looking man. He's an older man. He's not, I would say to me, as conventionally attractive as Kirsten was, but he has a lot of heart. He basically says that, he is open to blind dates. He's open to finding love. He thinks it's important. He says that, he doesn't care about size so much. You could be small, you could be big, you could be skinny. He just wants to find the person with the good heart. And he just says that, blind dates are new for him, but, new experiences can breed, positive results. And, I feel like for the most part, he gave exactly what he spoke out. And I like that about him. So Venetia and Walter have a little bit of a unique date because now they are actually at a cooking school. And honey, I was so mad at Ohm for this. I was like, what? Will Packer, what the hell? You just spent your weekend at the FAMU homecoming, sir. You went to an HBCU. Could we not have gotten a black chef here? Why was this white lady out here tomorrow? I'm going to teach y'all how to cook etouffee. What? Excuse me, there was availability. Nina Compton, y'all could have got anybody from Louisiana, honey. I know Leah Chase going, y'all could have got anybody from Dookie Chase's. Y'all could have got somebody from Little Dizzy's, honey. Y'all could have got somebody from anywhere to show us how to make this etouffee. There are way too many successful, talented African-American chefs in Louisiana, and they support Black businesses a lot. So I do not understand why we had this white lady teaching people how to make this Southern dish. Anyway, they're in the cooking class and Venetia and Walter are having a good time. And, she's talking about cooking and he asks her, like, are you into cooking? And she says yes. And he says that he can cook a little bit. And Venetia's actually happy to hear that. She says she really appreciates that when a man can cook. Basically, the idea of making her load a little bit lighter. She said she's the primary cooker in her house, and it would be nice to be with a partner who actually knows how to throw down, honey. And I have to say that that is something that is an appealing trait in a man. I'm not even saying that you have to be a guy that can cook everything, but if you make one good thing that is bomb, it's amazing. And it just takes a load off of somebody. Now, my man, you know what I'm saying? He can't cook. He can make an amazing salad. Yeah, he can. That's about it. But as long as I continue to be able to make reservations without any appeal, then we are fine. But for some people, it's important that the other person can cook. And I absolutely agree. It is nice to sometimes just not have to do so much domesticated work. I appreciate it. And I appreciate that they're having a really easy flowing conversation. He said that he's enjoying her company, and he really enjoys Venetia's vibe. Venetia kind of is always good on her dates. I feel like she's never really ran into too many dates where she hasn't given a guy a good feeling. So sis could give some notes about that for some people out here who are struggling just to get through date one, honey, whether it be at Olive Garden or Waffle House or wherever other these places people say they're not going to eat no more. But I appreciated that the conversation was free flowing, and apparently so does Walter. Walter says that Venetia feels like one of the girls from the neighborhood, and in a good way. He feels like it's very easy to talk with her. There's a familiarity here, and he absolutely is enjoying their situation. And I have to say that I like the consistency as to how he's vibing with her from the beginning when they met to as the date is going on. I did, however, want to know why he never removed that hat. I feel like I'm always weirded out when I see men who wear hats the entire time of a situation. So what's really going on underneath that hat? I need him to remove that. Do we have like a cue ball situation, but then we have the dreadlocks at the end? Or do we have a full head of locks? Because there's locks in the back. The ponytail part actually looks really beautiful. So I just was hoping that that continued. Or is there like a full crime and a missing situation going on at the top? Venetia says that, her and Walter vibe a lot, but it could be an issue when they move. Now, they do have a back and forth date going on with her and Sharice, but like I said, I ain't going back and forth with y'all, so I'm gonna finish out how him and Venetia went. They have this great conversation. They're tasting the etouffee. The lady done brought it out, looked like she really cooked it, and it does not look like it is very good. But in the conversation, Venetia and him start talking about the distance. And Walter says, if this was to work out, how would this work? Because you live in Houston and I live in Louisiana. And so he says, look, I believe if two people really want to make something work, they're going to make it work. And we absolutely live in two different places, but it would be not a problem if we were both into it. And she says she agrees that if she is in the right situation, she thinks that she could possibly move for a man. And I know that that's a big deal for her because Venetia has 3 kids. I mean, 2 of them are grown, but one of them is still of school age, and that would mean changing that child's whole schedule. So you have to constantly think about that when you're a mom actively dating. They were feeding each other the etouffee. It's really, really going well. And Venetia loves that Walter is very mature. He's very settled and knows who he is. So she is completely into his vibe. Now we are with Marvin and Sharice. And honey, I tell you, who in production gave Marvin a note to take that damn vest off? Because when he went on a date with Venetia, he had a vest on, but when he got on a date with Sharice, he ain't had that vest on no more. Somebody must have told him that she would get heated and leave if she catch you in that vest. But anyway, Marvin is standing by a horse and carriage outside, honey, with a bottle and 2 glasses. And I didn't know how this was going to go. Either way would have been good because Sharice gives a scene, honey. But it actually turned out well because when I saw that bottle and I saw them glasses, I said, "Oh, she's not gonna be feeling this BYOB thing, and it's gonna be hilarious the entire way through, even if it's completely painful for him." But actually, it did not turn tragic. Sharice walks up, she sees him, she asks him if he's Walter. He asks her if it's Sharice. They try to identify each other about 4 or 5 times, whatever weird reason. And then he helps her into the horse and carriage. And Sharice says that, this is her first time being doing something like this. So this was unique for her. And she really just needed some help to get into the carriage. They start talking at their little church hug. And off the bat, you can definitely tell that she's just having a better time with him versus Eric Adams, honey. He is engaging her in conversation. They're talking about their experiences. He's talking about, that he's a musician, that he's been all over the world. He talks to Sharice about, Louisiana, and they're just having a really good conversation. And Sharice is excited about that alone, honey. It just wasn't giving stiff. And it was appreciated by us watching the show because we didn't need to hear crickets the entire time, and was also appreciated by Sharice. She said that she thinks that Walter's a good looking man, and she liked the way that he was dressed, mainly because that vest was off. And she really appreciates that he's giving her verbal confirmation that he's telling her she's beautiful, but also that he's engaging in a back and forth. I say something, you say something back. They start talking about occupations. Walter lets her know that he really enjoys music, which I thought was weird because he's a musician. So we kind of got that down. He said he's written music for a few artists. I think he said Lil Bootsy. I think he said, he might have said like Nelly. He named a couple of like Louisiana folks. And I thought that was kind of interesting that he like writes music because they didn't put producer down there. They also didn't put songwriter. So I needed to know more about his occupation. We got this weirdness where we got some people that come on these shows and they got these jobs, but we're not really sure what they do. And there's a difference, especially in Louisiana and in other places when you talk about if you're a musician that makes money that can take care of yourself or what's the situation, because we don't really know what that dynamic is. Being a musician there, honey, you just play like in a band once in a blue, down there on the French Quarter. Do you have a full-time job? Do you teach music? We needed to know more. And we didn't really get that. But we did get maturity from him. And they have this conversation about the fact that, he was married. He was married for 19 years and it didn't work out. He said he did enjoy marriage and he did enjoy that marriage, but, he appreciates the experience. And, Sharice's like, yeah, maybe you'll be a good person for the next guy. I want to know why the 19 years didn't work out, but I get it. We're on a first date. You don't need to be that nosy into it. But if this was responding to something else, I would absolutely need to know why that 19 years didn't work out. That's almost 20 years. Anything can happen, especially if you got married young. But he said he did get some lessons from it and it made him a better person. I like that they're just both enjoying each other's company. There wasn't too much more to the situation other than that Sharice enjoyed the maturity. I love the beautiful flow of their conversation. Again, Walter's another good blind date. And we appreciate that because Sharice needed it. Just a small note to the congregation. Who is asking for these segue scenes where they give us little quips and jokes about dating in Louisiana or dating with men? We're not asking for them to be stand-up comics. Just give us more dating scenes and more show. We don't need these little in-betweens where we got to see a little sense of humor. I'm over these. So when I tell you Sharice really needed that date with Walter, because now she back with dry ass Eric Adams in a park having lunch on New York City's money, honey, or at least this park picnic. And when I tell you he was dressed like every grown F boy that ever been to a jazz festival in my life, he had the kit on, babe. The little t-shirt, the little linen pants with the slides. This is the this is the outfit of grown men who fit a certain perspective. I don't care what jazz festival. If you've been to Toronto, if you've been to Atlanta, you've been to New York, if you've been to DC, if you've been to LA, when I tell you they all wear the same outfit, traipse in the crowd, looking for women who were just recently divorced, trying to ruin their life. Anyway, Eric Adams is there trying too hard to be a player per usual and annoying the hell out of us in the process. I just feel like he really is somebody that probably got divorced because his wife just got tired. Like they had kids, she was exhausted, probably stayed because of the money. But it's just clear he doesn't have a lot of personality. And I feel like maybe after being an attorney, that's when he came into his coolness. And it just plays so much as we're watching him because honestly, it's just dry energy from him. And I feel like he feels like he doesn't have to try as hard because he has money. And I would assume that living in certain areas sometimes, especially when the population is against certain Black women in those areas, these type of men are attractive because they at least have financial wealth. They have something going on for themselves in the career mode. So he knows that about himself and he's wearing that as like a badge of armor, even though it smells like really bad axe spray. But he's giving that vibe all the time. I don't need to have a personality because I have money. And there are always going to be women who are interested in that. He's just not naturally to me charming in any capacity. He's just more smug and irritating. But Sharice is still trying to see if this situation could work. And the date was dry per usual as a Sahara honey. And, he's talking about his slides. He's got this dry lunch with Sharice. Everything is about saying something and then waiting for her to speak back. Like she says, he could do the picnic. He's like, if you think I made it, I did. And he gives that old corny smile because he's waiting to see if his line hit. And Sharice was right in that whole situation. It really was a fake Billy D vibe. And it was so corny to me. You could just tell that he just doesn't have a lot going on. Honey, when he ate that strawberry, I want to throw up in my mouth. When I tell you everything about him gives funeral director that just, you know, it just is boring. His vibe is whack. He just gives off a swarmy energy. And I kind of hate the way that Sharice didn't take how she felt on this date to how she felt with Walter on the date into her final decision. So Miss Ashley and Miss Zadia auditioned about their dates, and we know that they talked about, the fact that they liked their blind dates, and Tamika sent them on. They both like Kirsten, and they find out they both dating Kirsten. And in having that conversation, they're just chit-chatting about how everything is going. And in walks Sharice. And Sharice says hi to the ladies, and it seems like a positive vibe despite what went on in the earlier parts of the episode. And, Zadia then turns to Sharice to say, hey, I would love to have a conversation with you. And Sharice says, okay, cool. And she says, Ashley, do you mind excusing yourself? Because, I think me and Sharice need to have this like one-on-one with just me and her because of everything that went down. Ashley's like, cool, I'm about to go into the kitchen, give me something to eat. Like, don't take too long, but I'll let y'all be by yourselves. So Zadia says to Sharice, hey, do you mind coming over to the couch? Because that's where she was sitting dressed like, a workout outfit and like a little fortune teller vibe going on. It's giving pretty blue and it's giving calming, relaxing vibes. Sharice is also in a workout outfit in green, honey. So she says, no problem, gets up and walks over there. That is where the pleasantries stopped, honey. So Zadia says that she's been thinking, she went for a walk this morning, and she does feel like maybe Sharice was right about the fact that she needed to apologize. Well, that she probably did not take into consideration waking her up. She tells Sharice that she really apologizes for the fact that she interrupted her sleep and that she did not mean to, wake her up. And she doesn't want her to feel like she was trying to be malicious in terms of her level of comfort or anything like that. It was never her intention to make Sharice feel uncomfortable. And she's hoping that they could shift the vibe in the house because she feels like it has been shifted since their fight and maybe work themselves back to where they were. And Sharice says that, she appreciates it, but in the green screen, Sharice says that I still don't necessarily feel her completely because she's a liar. And the fact that she made it seem like I was lying when I was telling the truth about what went down is the issue. And when I tell you, that's why I said it stopped where it stopped, because then Zadia says that, she didn't think it would be such a big deal. And Sharice says that she still doesn't understand Zadia's like issue with her. And in talking about the situation, why does she feel like the need to like basically lie about the situation? Now, I want to say this. In my opinion, on the couch, Zadia really was just doing what you should have done. Now, I will say, I think she was also apologizing because it felt like the thing to do and not because she necessarily felt apologetic. But either way, it happened. In this instance, the way that this back and forth conversation goes on and on, I feel like Zadia did the mature thing that you're supposed to do in this situation, whether you agree with it or not at the time, apologizing, acknowledging Sharice's feelings. And she was looking for a bit of that back. And Sharice was fitting to give her none of it, honey. When Sharice said that she's not going to apologize for how she feels, and Zadia did say, like, she doesn't trust her, and it just makes her not really trust that Sharice is somebody that can hold a secret. Like, if you have an issue with me, talk to me about it first before you put me on blast. And Sharice says, I don't feel like I should have to do that because this is who I am. And if I feel a certain way, I'm going to be honest about how I feel. But Zadi's like, the way you're moving is going to make the dynamic awkward. And she's absolutely right. Sharice just don't give a damn. And she said, like, I don't care. This happened 2 days ago. You're still talking about this. I mean, lessons learned should be what it is. Let's not talk about it anymore. And Zadia is like, no. Well, Zadia was really saying no. She's waiting on her apology, and she's not fit to get one from Sharice. And Sharice lets her know, like, look, my anxiety is through the roof at this point. I don't like where this is going. And Zadia is like, you need to grow from this. Learn something from this. I just kept getting the Tyra Banks situation, and Sharice could care less, honey. She really was Tiffany leaving home. Sharice is like, this is who I am. If you don't like me, you don't like me. That's cool. But I'm finna get up from this couch because I have nothing more to say on this topic. And they resolve nothing in this moment. Okay, so On got everybody hooking up with their old love, honey, or at least the person they picked from the last show. And they're getting together to see if everything can still work with this person. And so now we have Zadia and Ashley up, and they're headed to the bowling alley, and they're having conversations about the dates that they've been on. They're talking about what they feel about their old guys, which we know are Cameron for Zadia and Donald for Ashley. And they're also talking about what their date has been like with this new blind date that Tamika linked them up on. They start having conversations and talk about how the date went, and it went well. Zadia says the date went, cool, but she got to figure out the silent prayer situation with the guy. And Ashley says that her and the guy had a great time and everything was flowing. And so Zadia says, well, who is the person that they hooked you up with? And she said, it's a guy named Kirsten. And she's like, oh, I also went on a date with Kirsten. And so we know that that's the first time that they're finding out that they went out with the same guy. Ashley says she's not really into the whole household sharing, honey, but all is fair in love and war. And I agree. I think putting these women on the same date with the same guy, I think it gives us a chance to see like how their dynamic works with men, period. And with the same individual, we got to see like, what do they bring out in each of these men when they're on their individual dates. So I think it was kind of cool that we got to see that. But I do understand how, again, this dynamic does not work on a larger scale, ready to love, when y'all have multiple people trying to share the same person and it's just all this infighting. Anyway, for the sake of the show, it kept it interesting. And I think that the dynamics being different and showing how different human beings interact was just still really, really dope experiment. Um, and so they start having a conversation about, how do they feel about this in relationship to their keeper guy. And, Zavadi says everything is going well with her and Cameron. She really likes him. So the blind date for her was like a good and bad because she really is vibing. Her and Cameron are vibing on a lot of the same things. I keep saying vibing this whole thing. But that is what we've been getting the entire time. And she says that they have great conversations. She really likes him. And she also likes the way that he makes her feel. And that's so important. She said, as a woman, he just makes her feel a certain way. And I was like, what does that mean, Zadia? Now, I don't want to say that they're sleeping together because just because she stuck out of the house that night, they could have, probably have had kissy kissy a couple of times, been hugged up in the car, honey. But when Zadia said he made me feel like a woman, I said, they sleeping together. Anyway, Ashley says that she's had the same energy with Donald in terms of the positivity. They've been really cool. He actually hit her up in the DMs after they kind of had their last conversation. They exchanged numbers and they've been talking pretty regularly, but she now hasn't heard from him in 2 days. And she needs to figure out today what's going on with this situation because this is not what she, anticipated for their dynamic. She really was vibing with him and she thought that everything was good. And now she's to find out what's going on. So Donald first enters Cameron and he says hi. And we notice that him and Zadia match and they got these little makeshift, blanket tops on, honey, from Salvation Army. Looking real cute, looking very Afrocentric. And he still has that matted mop top. And he says, like, hey, we're vibing. I didn't know you was gonna wear that shirt. I didn't know you was gonna wear I was going to wear this shirt, but look how we match. I love it. And they still have their good vibe going on. A little bit after that, Donald shows up to the bowling alley. He hugs Ashley and they, have a good time initially talking back and forth. And then Ashley takes him over to the side and has a conversation with him. And she basically says like, hey, I thought everything was going well with us. Donald says that he does like to he does like being in communication with Ashley and he's really enjoying his time with her. He tells her like, hey, I don't want to be in trouble with you. You don't look too happy with me. And he says, am I gone? I don't know. He says that he's more of an in-person person when it comes to communicating with someone. But sir, you're new on this situation and in a dating situation. You have to be open with all forms of communication. You can't be like, well, I'm not a text person as much. I like seeing you in person. But what happens when you don't see her in person? You don't talk at all. You don't communicate at all. And you obviously had no problems being in connection with her via social media because that's how you got her phone number. So I don't understand how he wasn't happy with all forms of communication. So Ashley breaks down the fact that, hey, I haven't heard from you in 48 hours. You just went ghost on me. What happened? He says, well, wait a minute. He pulls out his phone. He has an iPhone. I think she has an Android. He says, no, 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 no. I did text you. I texted you like a day or two ago and I asked you what was going on. I texted you more than once and I didn't hear back from you. And Ashley goes, well, wait, I'm pulling out my phone. So now we on receipts, receipts, receipts. And he's like, I'm pulling out my phone because um I didn't get anything from you. And she shows him how she didn't get anything. He's like, that's wild because I did text you. So she's like, well, did you think maybe if you didn't get me in text, you could call me? And I completely agree with Ashley. Like she said, there's multiple ways to get in touch with somebody via 2023, whether it be text, pigeon, email, social media. It's just no excuse. And once you didn't hear back from her, and you know that that's the reason she's down there were other ways to get in touch with her. It's given that this could be an early issue, that she needs to identify now with this man, and it could become an issue further down the line. But he says, no, it was just a miscommunication. He apologizes. He doesn't want her to think he doesn't have interest. And they go back to bowling. She says, cool, cool, cool. I'm over it. Let's move on. We're done. We know where we stand. They're bowling, having a good time, honey. Why, when they sit down to have drinks, Zadia and Cameron are getting, really lovey-dovey. And Ashley's like, see how easy it is when you communicate? See how easy it flows when you tell a woman you're interested? When I tell you Ashley had not let that situation go, and Donald is increasingly becoming uncomfortable with the fact that she's still hanging on to this. You said we were over, we should be over it. And honestly, it was one of the worst parts of Ashley that I've seen so far. And so Venetia is out with Jabari and they go to a pool hall. And this is a pretty cool, easy, breezy date. Honey, Venetia is letting us know she bought everything in the 2000s that the Insta boutiques had on sale. It is absolutely cute to see. And this date was very interesting because they started talking about financial expectations. We know her and Jabari are getting along when it comes to personality. We know that they socially like to do a lot of the same things. They're both attracted to each other. They're both into each other. So this was a dynamic that I think is important that people should discuss more often early on to not be shocked by so much later on dates with people. But Venetia was starting to talk with him about like finances. And so Jabari starts to ask questions and says, like, hey, I know you're an entrepreneur. How do you feel about the financial part of everything? And she's like, well, as an entrepreneur, and I've been one for quite some time, Venetia owns a hair salon. That, there's no sky's the limit situation with me. Like it's endless as to how much money I can make and what I can do. And I've been, the breadwinner in my household, and I've been, I've never had an issue with grinding and making money. And he's like, I definitely understand what she's saying. And it's something that's attractive to me about her, but for him, there is a ceiling because he is not an entrepreneur. He's an employee. And I love that they touched on the fact that you're going to meet people in different situations like this. He didn't say he was broke. He's just saying like, hey, I work for somebody else where I get my money from, and I'm happy with the job I got. Based on what his job title is, like he got a good old government job and making probably some really good benefits. He already said he could help his daughter out with her grad school and with college. So I think he's kind of set in the financial area. He's just letting her know that, hey, I only make a certain amount with my salary, and maybe he's good where he is because he said in the next couple of years he could see himself retiring. So I think he's solid where he's at. And he probably makes a really good paycheck. And she says that it is a little bit of a different situation with her, but she just wants really the help. Like she's tired of doing everything solo and by herself. So somebody taking off the weight in some capacity could be easy. They don't have to make the same amount of money as her, but it's something that she can completely appreciate. And she does want a man that is understanding that she's not trying to change her lifestyle. But she also wants a man that's very traditional and is a provider and understands the importance of keeping a roof over her and their family's heads. And Jabari, none of the things that she's saying are making him feel uneasy. And she just says, as long as a man knows I'm not stopping down my lifestyle for, his financial situation, then we're all good. I think that they really could work because they are a bit older and where they are in life. I think that the expectations that Venetia has make sense for where she's climbed. And because Jabari and her have older children who are out of the household, this dynamic works a bit easier. It can also work early on or even in the middle sometimes, but you have to have a certain mindset about how you see stuff. We always assume like, hey, entrepreneur, they're making tons of money. A lot of entrepreneurs make very regular ass income. But on top of that, and if you are an entrepreneur that's doing very well for yourself, there could be anything that takes you down, medically, anything like that, that you end up having to stop or close your business all of a sudden, things like that. Look what happened with COVID. Having somebody that got a good, solid job that continues to work throughout that period ain't nothing to frown at. With some good benefits, honey, you never know. So I love that they had this conversation. It felt very grown. It felt very real. I love how they still came out saying, hey, look, as long as you respect what's going on with me and I respect what's going on with you financially, there's not a problem. And I think if you have similar like goals. So he said, look, what about in terms of like, the house? If we end up getting into a situation, can we have a pool table at the house? And she's like, no. He's like, not even in the man cave. And I just thought that was really cute. And I thought it was very, very funny. And I love that because I don't think people understand the solace and the beauty of having your own space when you have a very nice home and you live in one. The man is in the man cave and the woman is in her own little world, in her own room. It is a beautiful thing, honey. Live it, like it. It is nice. You have your own space. Y'all just come back together for the living room and the love and the bedroom and the kitchen and all those other areas in the house that you share together. But having that space of solitude when you just need a mental break away from the kids, away from the husband, it is a nice thing. So I appreciated this conversation and it felt very grown and it felt alignment with why we like this show. So Tamika is meeting with the ladies, and she's basically telling the ladies that the reason that she hooked them up with these blind dates before they got back with their keeper is she wanted to show the compare and contrast. She wanted to see, how the ladies interacted with these men because she's just now getting to learn them. And as a matchmaker, she needs to see how they interact with different people, and that helps her to understand who's the best match for them and the differences between the men that they're seeing. And so she goes down the line and basically says, like, how did these dates go? She talks to Ashley. Ashley said that she felt her date with Kirsten. They had amazing energy, very kinetic. And Tamika hints that that's the reason why she linked them up. She just thought that his energy would really match with Ashley's. And she says, girl, I was sweating down my back. Somebody need to get Ashley some baby powder, some type of cornstarch or something. And she says, he was so fine. I just loved the energy that we had between each other. And, immediately she felt like his, I don't want to say vibe. That's why I'm stopping. But she felt positive with him and it was so easy. And that was interesting to me because we did see that naturally. And Tamika was spot on with how she hooked them up. But then Zadia says that she also had the same vibes with Kirsten. And we're like, girl, no, you didn't. That silent prayer was uncomfortable. She brings it up again, but they did not have the same vibes. And it kind of made me feel like Zadia is the type to just lie a lot. Like whether it was with Tamika in that first situation or this date, because nothing about their date gave that energy. In fact, after their date, Kirsten broke down that he had a better time with Ashley because Ashley was more easy and free flowing, and the energy was there, and the bubbliness was there, and the personality was there. With Zadia, it was like pulling teeth. So to lie to this lady and said y'all had a great date when y'all didn't, it felt like she's like always in secret competition with different women because she did it on her season in DC when she was in competition with another Ashley on the show with the guy Dante, who Ashley ended up being with anyway. No, I'm sorry, Aisha. And it was like she had to one up her every time about the vibes that they had, even when it wasn't that great. At the end of the day, Dante and Aisha ended up together. You don't have to get no more, but I'm just saying that that's something that I've noticed with Zadia is like she likes to be the competition with these other women, even when it's not true. And that was just bizarre to me that she lied to her about the chemistry. And it also maybe is one of the reasons Sharice is right about the fact that Zadia lied too much. And so while she's saying all that, Ashley is focusing, but Ashley ain't got nothing to worry about because her vibe is authentic. So then she talks to Sharice, and Sharice says that she really enjoyed her day with Walter. She said that she liked connecting with him. He was talkative, and he was someone that's at a certain stage in his life that she really appreciates. She said that she definitely enjoyed the conversation with Walter better than she did with Eric Adams, and they really connected. Sharice seemed genuinely happy. So I just didn't understand how we ended up where we ended up at this end. Venetia says that Walter definitely gave her grown man vibes. She really enjoyed his energy and she appreciates that, he was experienced in a lot of different ways and he's a man's man. And that was really important to her. So we reflected that in both of the dates that we saw, that energy reflected the same. So it was really an honest conversation about their full interpretation of their dates and what we saw. And so Tamika lets them know like all this is great, but now it's time to decide who you're going to stick it out with and who's going home. So she tells them that the keepers that they have been with since their initial pick are coming over to the house and they're going to meet with these guys and they're going to hang out and see where they are mentally since they've been on these dates with these new men as a blind date and also with their own men. Are they still feeling them? And if not, who is going home? And of course, everybody, honey, is in a frenzy. So this whole keep him or leave him situation really goes very, very, very quickly. They go back into the back of the house near that kiddie pool, honey. They start meeting with their different men. Ashley's talking to Donald, and Ashley is seeming a little nervous as she's talking to Donald. And he apologizes again one more time for not calling her back. And in that moment, I kind of felt like when we watched him talking to us at the screen and he's doing the green screen thing, I realized that Donald seems like he's now just trying to stay in it for the sake of competition. He's just worried about being eliminated. Not so much about whether or not he hurt Ashley's feelings or the vibe that he had, but more so that it could ruin his chances to be on the show longer. We don't need to see some more of that poetry, honey. I feel like he just wanted more TV time. Zadia is talking with Cameron inside on the couch, and they're having a good conversation. Everything is going well. We definitely feel like they slept together. But she says, look, we have a good connection. We have great conversation. He's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything is working and flowing with us. We don't have any issues. So let's just keep communicating. Let's keep having a good time. I choose you. So she chose Cameron to keep on keeping on. Now we got Sharice and Eric Adams. Honey, why is Eric back as a Louis Vuitton Don? Because when it was at that picnic, he showed his manicured toes and that Louis Vuitton band slides. So now he inside with the holster on from Louis Vuitton, letting us know he's the Louis Vuitton Don, honey. It's him and it's between him and Kanye. He letting you know. I could afford it. I'm here all the time. And I feel like this is where Sharice constantly gets tripped up with him. He's just so damn tacky. And Sharice ends up saying that she liked Walter's communication the whole time, but she also enjoys the way that he communicates. She initially starts saying that she doesn't like his communication. Then she says she enjoys his communication. Then she says he needs to communicate more and be more open and why is he so closed off. But then she appreciates the level that he's giving it to her in terms of revealing himself. Girl, you don't even know what you want. And he basically says to her, like, hey, I'm not, a non-communicative person. I am somebody who can communicate if you ask me questions. Yes, but the whole flow of a conversation is that you ask questions back, sir. You're getting to know her. We're having a back and forth conversation. Otherwise, she's just interviewing you. It did not make any sense. But he is still boring as hell, but he's not broke. And that's where Sharice's eye is gleaming the entire time. She keeps talking about how they match lifestyles, and that's really where you're seeing that situation flow in. She even takes him in the kitchen, and again, is giving dead air, but he is smiling with that ridiculous ass smile. There's nothing about her that he knows better. He doesn't know anything about whether or not she likes walks in the park or her favorite color or her favorite musical artist. Nothing. It's just more about the fact that Sharice enjoys the idea that he has some money, that they can do fly things together, I guess financially in terms of travel. She wants to be in a situation where she's comfortable. And I'm starting to wonder what her vibe is, if she really is wanting a love situation or what's going on. Because honestly, you just saw the opposite was vastly different. You enjoyed being of interest to this man, and he ain't interested in nothing but finding out when the sales associate from Louis Vuitton is going to call him about the next sale. Even with all of that, Sharice still chooses to keep his dry ass. And we move on. Finally, we're down to Ashley, and she is talking with Donald in the house. And she starts having a conversation with Donald, and she talks to him about how, she really enjoys him. Early on, they had great chemistry. And we're thinking, okay, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Are they going to end? We don't know. And she says to him that one of the issues that she's had in prior relationships is that the guys weren't great communicators. Also, side note, Venetia keeps Jabari. We knew that was going to happen. There's no real depth to that story. They're staying together. It wasn't anything deep. And as she goes back to saying, hey, I like you. You have great qualities, but I cannot be in a situation anymore where the guy is not communicating and it doesn't work out. Ashley then begins to run them color purple tears, honey. And I'm just like, every time we see her, it is almost soap opera dramatics just to get to the end to say, I'm keeping you or I'm leaving you. And OWN decides that's where we're also stopping on this episode. So let me know how y'all felt about the episode. Are you feeling these different men? Do you understand at all why Sharice chose the dry ass mayor? And do you feel like Cameron and Zadia can give it the long haul? I feel like Jabari and Venetia can, because I feel like they've grown and in their sexy place. But I wonder if Cameron and Zadia will crash and burn because of Zadia's personality. So let me know in the comments. I love y'all always, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.